6, 7, 8, 9. We are back in the cop cave for episode four.
We're
I'm your.
back.
We are back. We are back. I'm your host with the most lotion on his elbows this side of the Mississippi, in the cop cave today with none other than the one and only Master Police Officer Stanley L. Woods. Daddy, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm glad to be back in the booth. We did take a brief hiatus, had some family things going on. All good. Want to give a quick shout out to Chardonnay Woods, my sister, your daughter. She is back
Yes.
stateside. So another round of applause for that. She just got back from her deployment with the Navy. Now she's getting ready to transition to her next stop. So very, very glad to have her. And then I am ready to be back in this thing, get more consistent with it, and get right
Yes.
into it. Get right into it. This is a very exciting case I think we have today. We are going to be covering another one of your crazy, kooky characters that you've come in contact with over your
Uh-huh.
illustrious cop career. Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, right off the bat, we're going to be talking about Palm Beach's very own Bruce Leroy, better known as the Black Ninja.
Yes. Black Ninja.
Can you tell us about who the Black Ninja is and how you got involved with him from a cop perspective?
All right. Well, the Black Ninja, I ended up arresting him years later, but he got that nickname from some other officers on a case I was not involved in, where one night he was in his karate gi and with a samurai sword walking around his neighborhood. And of course, the neighbors see this guy dressed like this, they call the police.
For
And our
sure.
officers got into a pursuit with him. And he climbed up the tree and they had to get him out of the tree using a sage, which is a gun we use with rubber bullets.
Uh,
And that's out the tree. But he was having an episode, mental health episode, but he got that nickname, the Black Ninja, because of that night.
wow.
That I wasn't part of that, but it stuck out. And I hadn't met him until probably a couple of years later before I even met him.
That reminds me of that scene from Crouching Tiger's Hidden Dragon where they're running on the wall and jumping 30, 40 feet. So he's
Yeah,
out there, black dude, in a karate gi with a samurai sword, which I don't even think that's
yeah.
the same discipline. But did he have a belt? Was he a legitimate karate uh, practitioner?
I think he was. I think he actually did. I don't know what style he trained in, but I think he trained in some martial art. And that
Wow.
reminds me, the first time I actually encountered him was working the detail, overtime detail. I'm in uniform at the city place at the time, and it
Mhm.
was pretty new. And he was standing on one of the benches where people are supposed to sit. So I'm just doing a security detail, walking around. I see him standing on the bench. I get his attention. I motion to him to get down off the bench. He looks at me. He does a backflip off the bench and takes
Oh,
a fighting stance. And I'm like, I'm saying to myself, this dude's a little crazy. So I just continue walking by him, ignoring him. He's looking at me. I'm looking at him. We pass each other. And he walks away with a little bit of swagger as he's walking away. And that was my first time encountering him. I didn't know who he was. We didn't exchange words. It was just I motioned to him. He did the flip. He did the stance, and we just kind of looked at each other and walked our separate ways. So that's the first time I ever dealt with him. Well, uh, a couple of years later, he starts calling our 911, our
mm,
dispatchers. And initially, he was calling and kind of flirting with the dispatchers and things like that. But over time, he got more aggressive and was being rude to them.
mm.
So it got to the point where the dispatch supervisor wanted to file a charge on it because he was abusing 911. He literally called 911 700 times in 1 month.
In 1 month. So that's multiple calls a day. It's like, hey,
Correct.
what's your emergency? Yeah, baby, I don't got a date tonight. Hoping you could come out with me to the Chipotle. And then it just got progressively worse from that point. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much it. That's what it was. He would just call and hang up, just call several times, and it was distracting for the dispatchers. It got to the point where it was aggravating. So I did the research on the charge, and I ended up doing the probable cause on a PC to arrest him for abuse 911. And
Hmm.
so after I did the PC, I put it out to our officers, and they found out when we found out where he lived and where he worked, they went to his job to make the arrest. Okay, and that's when we found out his job was he was a telemarketer. So at work all day, he's on the phone. All day, this dude was on the phone talking to people, calling them about their bills or whatever he was calling them for. But
Mm,
his job was 8 hours a day on the phone. And then he would get home, and all through the night, he would call dispatch and aggravate the dispatchers throughout the night.
wow.
So obviously, that tells you what kind of he has some issues. Because who wants to spend that much time on the phone?
I mean, when you love what you do, you know.
apparently, apparently, he loved being on the phone. But after
Interesting.
we after I had the arrest paperwork done for him, and I didn't go make the physical arrest. I just did the paperwork. Other officers went and arrested him and took him to the county jail. A day or two later, he actually came to the station to see me.
Mm,
He came to the detective division, came up and asked for me. I go out to the waiting room. He's out there, and I knew who he was because we arrested him. He had his picture,
right.
and
And he had the gi on still.
well, no, he had normal clothes on at this time.
Uh,
But he comes to the station and he says, "Why'd you do that? Why'd you call 911 700 times a month? Well, you didn't have to arrest me." Yeah, we kind of did have to arrest you.
mm.
You were being a pain in the butt. Yeah. Then he just looked at me and he did the lines for Rambo somewhat from First Blood. That you scratch First Blood, I did. Just remember that. Like, what?
Ooh.
Are you threatening me? Just remember, you scratch First Blood. And then he turns to walk away out of the station. And I'm like, this guy is a real nut. He's a real nut. And he walked away with that same little swagger he had when I saw him down in City Plate. And that was my last dealing with him on a professional level. But
Wow.
he was a character, and I think eventually moved out of our jurisdiction, so we didn't have to deal with him much anymore. But he was known in the police department as the
Hmm.
Black Ninja, and calling dispatch that many times just got his picture known. So everybody knew him from that area.
Right. I mean, that's pretty cool. It really sounds like a main character syndrome where everything he says, he just feels like he's in a movie. So I imagine him walking into that police station like a Shona from The Last Dragon. Like, oh, you think you bad? You think you bad? I'm out here. I'm the real ninja of Palm Beach.
Oh yeah.
That's really
And
cool.
again, he did sometimes walk around with his karate gi on, and you would see him walking through the city downtown area, and again, I hadn't any of the dealings with him, but other officers had to talk to him a few times. I don't remember if he got arrested again, but they knew who he was, and he had some mental health issues, and there was a
Mhm.
couple of times I think he was Baker acted involuntarily committed to the mental health facility.
Interesting. Is there ever any instances of him fighting, like taking on 13 cops at once and ah, yeah, anything like that? No?
Nah, not that I recall. I mean, other than that first night we had the sword, but he ran from him when he saw the police coming. He ran. He ran. So no, I don't know of him ever actually fighting anybody. Definitely not fighting the police that I know of.
Mm, okay. I mean, that makes sense to run because, sword versus a gun, you can only catch one bullet at a time. And if you got multiple people chasing after you, it's going to be a lot more difficult.
Yeah, yeah. If you're a ninja though, you might be able to handle that.
You
But
never
he
know.
did do that backflip off the bench, and he took the fighting stance with me, and I just thought it was funny. To me, that was just hilarious.
Pretty impressive, though. Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So, we want to keep this one moving. I do have a new segment that I want to try with you.
Okay.
Um, we're still working on a title, but this is like looking into the Florida man as you are a Florida man and you've had some very extensive experiences with them. So I got two articles that I'm going to read a little bit for you, and I want you to pick which one you're more interested in. So
Okay.
the first one, suspect racks up 19 charges in 1 hour. That's our first option.
Okay.
Or man arrested for a sticker.
Okay. Here is man arrested for a sticker. Let's do that.
You want to do that one?
Yeah.
All right. And I'll put the little bit of the article here. Um, Florida man, 23 years old, arrested for I eat ass sticker on rear window of his truck. So Dylan Webb, 23, was driving near Lake City when a cop spotted the sticker on the back of his pull-up truck, and he pulled him over and asked him, how would a parent of a small child explain the meaning of the words "I eat ass"? After issuing the Webb a notice to appear, The deputy asked him to alter the sticker so that it would no longer be derogatory, and Webb declined, citing First Amendment rights. That case went on to trial, and he was arrested and let out of jail after posting a $2,500 bond. So, what's your reaction to this, and how would you have handled it if you saw that very, very offensive sticker?
I eat ass. I would probably just laugh. Okay, I wouldn't pull him over. So obviously that must be a city ordinance. It's
Hmm.
definitely not a state law. So it must be a city ordinance for that city where they have something that you can't have any profanity on your vehicles or something to that effect. But I mean, we've had little ordinances like that. Like I remember when I first started as a police officer, there was such a statute. There was a city municipal statute that says you couldn't abuse a police officer verbally. So to
Ah,
curse a police officer out was an arrestable offense. And I thought people used it, but eventually it was removed from the book because they said it was unconstitutional, it violated First Amendment rights. But
mm,
I've seen people arrested for cursing at a police officer in the past. But with that particular thing in the city of West Palm, okay, there's other things more offensive than that going around here. So I would have just laughed and kept on rolling.
yeah. That's good to hear. I mean, I've definitely heard of folks, police officers in general, abusing that, like how you have to respect and treat a cop. Like if they let their ego and emotions get too into it, then they'll be like, "Hey, you can't talk to me like that. You can't refuse to interact with me," even though it is usually within that person's right to talk or not talk to them however they want.
Right. Yeah. That has gotten a lot of officers in trouble when our egos are bigger than our authority. And that becomes a problem. And that's something as a trainer that I did try to talk to our officers about. Uh, I always say this is saying, uh, don't be the first asshole and don't be the biggest asshole. If you can do that as a police officer, you're probably going to be okay in any encounter. Because all of us have the potential to be assholes. Okay. We all do.
Absolutely.
But as a
Absolutely.
police officer, you have to be professional. So don't be the first asshole and don't be the biggest asshole.
Yeah. And like Dylan Webb would say, you are what you eat. So put it away. So yeah. Well, okay. I think that was a very good, concise episode. Next episode, I want to get into something a little bit more creepy. You mentioned a grave robbery case when we had a little pre-phone call. So I want to get into that next week and
Okay.
yeah, go from there. Once again,
All right.
I'm very, very glad that we're doing this. We're getting back on a regular schedule, trying to do this, I think weekly. I think we can put this out weekly. So
Okay.
yeah.
Now,
Once again,
I'm
once
available, and again, I have some other people that would be happy to come on and tell some of their stories as well.
I would like to have that. Definitely like to have that on episode 5 or 6 of the Cop Cave. It's going to get a lot more interesting. We're going to have some new faces on here, new stories. I'm just going to keep this thing rolling, man.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Dad. Thanks for your time. Thanks for everybody for watching. Reach out to me with any questions you guys want to have answered on this pod. I'm going to keep asking and keep doing this, keep doing it more, keep getting better.